Detectives have named a woman who died in Ealing on Sunday, June the 25th, as they continue to appeal for information. While formal identification awaits, the victim has been named as 77-year-old Anne Murphy. Her family have been informed and are being supported by specially trained officers. Police were called at about 18:39 hours following concerns for the welfare of a woman at a residential property in Harold Road, NW10. On arrival, officers discovered Anne inside the property. She was sadly pronounced dead at scene. A special post-mortem conducted on Tuesday, June the 27th, found the cause of Anne's death to have been a head injury. A 74-year-old man was arrested at the scene on suspicion of murder. He was taken to hospital due to concerns for his health. He remains in hospital. The suspect and the victim were known to each other. Detectives continue to piece together the circumstances leading up to her death, and inquiries are ongoing. Detective Chief Inspector Neil John said, "This is a tragic incident and our thoughts remain with the family and friends of Anne during this difficult time. Our investigation is progressing and I would like to reassure members of the community that colleagues from the Specialist Crime Command are working around the clock to establish the circumstances surrounding Anne's death. We have made one arrest and are not looking for anyone else at this time in relation to this investigations. We would reiterate our appeal for anyone with any information to come forward and speak with officers. I also encourage anyone with concerns to speak with officers on patrol or contact their neighborhood policing team." Met investigation into a drugs line from London to Dundee has resulted in a gang of 4 men being jailed for more than 14 years and a missing child safeguarded. Extensive phone inquiries and a fast-paced joint operation led officers to locate and safeguard the teenager only 2 days after he was reported missing. Detective Constable Jamie Helps from Operation Uroki said, "This sentence sends a message to drug dealers that Uroki has no borders and we will work relentlessly with our colleagues across the UK to bring you to justice."
Drugs devastate communities and destroy lives, but these men did not care about this as long as they made money. The public may believe that county lines does not have a wider impact on communities, but the consequences of this type of criminality should not be underestimated.
The investigation began on the 14th of November 2022 after local officers raised their concerns of a missing 16-year-old child to the Uroki team. Extensive inquiries uncovered that the child had travelled from Croydon to Dundee, Scotland on the 7th of November 2022. It was then discovered that the 4 men had also travelled to Dundee around the same time.
Officers from Uroki swiftly deployed to Dundee and began the proactive operation with Police Scotland's Serious and Organised Crime team. On November 16, 2022, David was arrested on Strathmartin Road, Dundee. He was found in possession of 100 wraps of crack cocaine and heroin.
Whilst being arrested, Davy began shouting to alert Newman, who was in a nearby address. The secondary address on Strathmartin Road was identified and Newman was arrested in possession of an active class, a drugs line. The address was Cuckudund. The missing 16-year-old child from London was found. Police also seized knives and class, a drugs from the address.
These arrests and further telecommunication data lead officers to an address on Menifeoth Road, Dundee. Both Paul and Nwedire were located in the address and arrested. Paul attempted to evade police by climbing out of the window.
Further weapons and money were recovered from the address. The phones found during the course of the investigation showed that Paul was the head of the group. He directed the other men and had conducted extensive research on Dundee before travelling there.
Detective Inspector Scott Carswell of Police Scotland's Serious and Organised Crime team said, "Human trafficking is a despicable crime and I acknowledge today's sentencing. These types of crimes have a long-term impact on the victims and we are committed to working with our partners to identify those responsible and help protect the victims."
The victim of a fatal stabbing on a tram has been named as Kyle Knowles. Mr. Knowles, aged 32, of Staunton Drive, Sherwood, died after he was stabbed on a tram approaching Highbury Vale tram stop at around 11:01 am on Monday, June the 26th. Detectives are continuing to pursue multiple lines of inquiry, including checking CCTV, speaking to witnesses, and working with partners to understand exactly what led to his tragic death.
24-year-old man was arrested on suspicion of murder within minutes of police arriving at the scene. He was taken to hospital after suffering injuries to his hands. He remains under arrest and will be taken directly into police custody for questioning when he is released from hospital.
High-visibility patrols have increased both on board trams and in the area in the wake of the incident, and officers will be continuing to provide reassurance to the public and addressing any concerns they may have. Mr. Noles' family continued to be supported by specially trained officers as the investigation progresses. A
statement released by Mr. Knowles' family described him as a dedicated father and chef with a loving soul and cheeky character, who was yet to find his place on this earth. You've now returned to the place where stardust is made, reunited with friends you once lost.
Left behind is a loving mother, father, 3 brothers and your children, who all love you very much, and will see you again one day. Until then, set the table and pour the drinks. Detective Chief Inspector Claire Dean, who is leading the investigation, said, I would firstly like to say that our thoughts are very much with all of Mr. Noles' family and friends at what is an incredibly difficult time for everyone who knew him. What happened on Monday we know has caused concern among the community, but I want to reassure people we have a team of highly skilled detectives working extremely hard to establish the circumstances of this tragic incident.
This incident took place on a tram with other passengers and staff on board, and we know what people witnessed on Monday will have affected them, which is why we want to make people aware of the NOTS victim care system, where you can speak to a trained professional for emotional support.
Also want to reassure people that we are not looking for anyone else in connection with this incident. This remains an ongoing investigation that is moving at speed, but I still want to urge anyone with any information, especially mobile phone footage, to come forward. Any piece of information or footage you give us, no matter how insignificant it may seem, could be vital in helping us with our inquiries.
A 15-year-old schoolboy has been stabbed to death in a double killing in North London. The boy died at the scene in Elton Road, Islington, after the stabbing at 11:30 p.m. last night. A 23-year-old man was taken to hospital where he was pronounced dead. A third knife victim, 28, was found at a nearby property with a stab injury that is not life-threatening. Witnesses told the Evening Standard the stabbing took place when violence broke out while a music video was being filmed. One said, there was filming and then all hell let loose. There were a lot of kids, some very young, hanging around. It's a tragedy.